Hey friends, welcome to today's video. Today we're going to talk all about deconstruction within the church, within Christianity, and I'm just going to unpack it in a very small scale because this is a topic that opens up a huge can of worms. So this is going to be kind of a landing page, a starting point to me addressing more topics underneath that issue. I want to talk about deconstruction, and if you're wondering what deconstruction is, it's when people who have been in the Christian community start to deconstruct their beliefs on topics, tearing down, okay, maybe I don't believe this, and kind of rebuilding a new train of thought on that topic. So you will hear the words deconstruction. You can also hear terms like ex-evangelical. They're kind of hot words, popular words right now. So why do I want to talk about this? Because we as Christians really need to talk about this because so many are struggling with this. And maybe if you're watching, you're struggling with this, but maybe if you aren't, you have friends that are seriously struggling with this. And my heart is I want to talk about these topics that are really issues. I want to be relevant to what is going on in the world. I don't want to just sit on the sidelines and not talk about these things, even though I feel a little inadequate to discuss a topic like this, even though I've listened to things on this topic. I am not the authority on this topic, but I do want to be a place where people know I understand, I see what's going on, and maybe a place for people to have questions, to feel comfortable with bringing their thoughts and their feelings on this topic. But also, this feels personal in the sense that I have friends, people that I grew up with, people that I went to Bible school with, that have walked away from the faith or are on that road to deconstruction, it feels like. And you can just tell from the things that friends share on social media where kind of they're at and what they're dealing with. So I just want to be someone, a voice that says, I see you, I hear you, but I really want to stand up for Jesus and for the truth of the gospel. And so yeah, that's kind of my heart behind this. So I want to talk about why I personally believe, first, deconstruction is something that we're majorly seeing happen in today's culture, and specifically in America, because that's the country I live in, though I'm sure it's happening all around the world. So these are my thoughts. We are now in a culture, in American culture, where Christianity is no more the common train of thought, which was not true in years past. When you think about in years past, Christianity and its values, I'm going to say its values because it wasn't always true Christianity, which is really important to express. The values of Christianity were often the common train of thought within culture and the day-to-day life. You know, if you were to say, I believe in God and the Bible, like that was probably a lot more common than it is now today. And Christianity has and its values have turned not into something like, okay, a lot of people kind of believe this, a lot of people go to church, to now Christianity is a religion that perpetuates hate and oppressiveness and abuse. So that's kind of where we've flipped a switch, I believe, in our culture today. And, you know, even like when I was a kid, I think a lot more people went to church then than they do now, especially after the pandemic. I think things have changed even more. It's almost accelerated this process of people leaving the church, leaving the Christian faith. And so like when I was a kid, I think it was more common for people to go to church. It was like the socially acceptable thing. And you went to church because that was like this social thing to do a lot more. So even though talking about deconstruction can seem really discouraging for those of us who hold on to the church, who believe in Jesus and his words and the Bible and hold that as our main source of truth, I want to say that this is in some ways a positive thing. The silver lining in it all is the fact that I think we're starting to see people for who they truly are. It's not so much hiding behind like, oh yeah, I believe in Jesus, I go to church, yeah, kind of thing. It's like going to be more and more, I think, as the years go on and as we go down this road, where those who say they believe in Jesus and those who even go to church are those who actually believe in Jesus and actually are walking the Christian walk. Because it's not going to be, and it's not really very socially acceptable now, but it's going to be even less socially acceptable, less normal, and there will be more. I think there will be a time where we will experience persecution, which I don't use that word lightly. I'm not saying like persecution where someone says something mean about you. I mean, in the years down the road, what we see going on in other countries where Christians are martyred for their faith, maybe something at some point, I'm not saying like in the next 5-10 years, but down the road may happen. And so there is much more of this dividing line, which I think is a good thing in that sense. But I want to talk about, I kind of wrote down, what do I have here? 6 reasons from things I've read recently and just heard, 6 reasons why I think a lot of people are struggling with the church and with Christianity in general and are leading them on this road of deconstruction. So I'm going to read them out pretty quickly. The first one is abuse in the church. And, we're seeing a lot of things come to light. Ravi Zacharias, the stuff with Carl Lentz of Hillsong. This is coming out more and more. So I think people are really struggling with abuse in the church. It's misuse of power in situations. Number 2, I think people are struggling with churches / Christians becoming political, which, I mean, everybody became political in 2020, right? If you didn't have political opinions, you suddenly became political. But this is a real issue in the church, where the church / Christians are becoming political, and we're seeing this trend in Christian nationalism, which if you don't know what that is, I'm going to talk about that in another video. Number 3, feeling like the church doesn't care about social issues, which, we've had a lot of things in the year of 2020, these social issues, racism, Black Lives Matter, all of this come to a head. So social issues, not just racism, but that's a big one, but also poverty, the treatment of women, thoughts on immigration, so these social justice issues. Number 4, I think another cause of people to go on this road of deconstruction is the church's view on sexuality and how people outside of the faith or people struggling with their faith feel like Christians are hateful of those who are living outside of traditional values. Number 5, feeling like, and I've heard this multiple times, like there isn't a free space for doubts and questions. So people that are in the church and they have doubts, they have questions about their faith, and they feel like they're not getting the answers, or they don't even feel like they have a space to talk about their doubts and questions. And number 6 is, I put this in quotes, the one right way mentality, as opposed to the cultural norm today of my truth. A lot of these things I talked about, like I said, I'm going to talk about in following videos. So here's my little plug. Don't forget to subscribe if you're interested in me talking about these topics in a little bit more detail. I am going to unpack them more in following Deep Talk series. So when you see me post a video that says Deep Talks, know it'll be on one of these topics for the next few weeks. Before I go any farther in what I wanted to share today, I want to show a video clip from a really awesome conversation that is well worth listening to. It was on Alisa Childer's YouTube channel. And if you don't know her, she was part of a Christian group called Zoe Girl. I used to love them when I was little. And she has a whole YouTube channel talking a lot about progressive Christianity. And she did an interview with Jeremy Camp and his wife, and John Cooper, which is the head of Skillet, and his wife, and they did this whole video on why they believe Christian artists are leaving the faith. So I want to share this little video of AD Camp talking about something that I 100% agreed with what she was sharing.
I think one thing that in a lot of the deconstruction stories, what's interesting is a lot of the issues that people have, felt or had, I agree with. But I want to say to you, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. That just because you have questions or you feel uncomfortable with certain church culture that you've seen, or you feel uncomfortable with the way that you're seeing certain Christians live their lives, let me just tell you, so do I. Like, I have a serious problem with the way that certain churches do certain things. And I'm not here to bash the church. I love the body of Christ. But there's certain things that are worth deconstructing from. But don't throw the baby out with the bathwater just because you feel a certain way about something, that there are valid truths and there's a valid concrete place that you can come back to, that you can look from an intellectual point and then allow your feelings to sort of follow,
Well, it's like, Jesus never said, follow my disciples. He said, follow me. I think a lot of times we look at, the disciples or those that are serving Jesus, and they're like, well, if that's who Jesus is Jesus like, actually, that's not who I am,
So now I thought I would share 3 questions that I feel like are worth asking yourself if you are struggling with doubts about your faith. And our whole house, our whole faith, what we thought we believed to be true was torn apart, and we don't even really realize that.